welcome exceptional women to the Trailblazers Business Podcast for Women, your go-to spot to receive the real about being a boss. I am your host, Dr. Michelle S. Thomas, multiple minority business owner and proud founder CEO of the Exceptional Woman Enterprise. Each episode will give you valuable insights on building the confidence you need to succeed. Sit back, relax, and let's learn to be loud and proud about what we bring to this world of business.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Trailblazers Business Podcast for Women. The podcast where we explore the transformative power of female leadership in the emerging new paradigm. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle S. Thomas, and today we're diving deeper into the evolving landscape of female leadership and its pivotal role in shaping a more inclusive and equitable world. If this is your first time tuning in to Trailblazers, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a visionary leader and advocate for gender equality. As the proud founder of the Exceptional Woman Enterprise, an organization dedicated for advancing female leadership, I have spent over 30 years becoming a distinguished scholar and author who has extensively researched the changing dynamics throughout the past 3, 4 decades of leadership. So I want to welcome everyone to my podcast. This podcast is important for not only the aspiring entrepreneur, but those of us who've been out in this industry for a long time to give us a new perspective on how we navigate this new landscape. First, let's begin by exploring what female leadership means in the context of this new paradigm. Let's define female leadership in the modern world. Being a woman leader within this new paradigm is about embracing inclusivity, empathy, collaboration, and sustainability. It's a leadership style that values diverse perspectives and prioritizes the well being of all while recognizing the interconnectedness of our global community. From my perspective, being a woman leader differs from traditional leadership models because it stands out through its focus on emotional intelligence, relationship building, and a holistic approach to problem solving. It challenges the traditional hierarchies and promotes a more participative and nurturing style of leadership. We as female leaders often lead with a sense of purpose that extends well beyond profit to make a positive societal impact. Although we are rapidly growing within our areas of industries, there are still some of the obstacles that we as women in leadership encounter. I've spoken about this before. One of the biggest obstacles that we face that shows up, especially when it comes to financial support and partnerships, is gender biases. We still continue to face gender biases and a lack of representation within the top executive roles that sometimes causes us to not be taken seriously. We grapple with the imposter syndrome a lot as a woman leader because our representation is minimal in the environments that we reside within. Additionally, the dual demands of our professional and personal lives can particularly be challenging, making it essential for us to navigate this work life balance successfully, which is something that I spoke on one of my previous podcasts. My question is, how do we overcome some of these challenges to ensure that we as women leaders continue to thrive in this new global paradigm? One of the things that I speak about a lot to overcome these challenges is as organizations, we must internally within our own organization foster diverse and inclusive cultures. We have to really make sure that even within our own ecosystem of building the businesses that we want to build, we have to challenge ourselves and question, are we building the diverse communities and workplace that we want to see ourselves within? And ladies, that means, do you have roles within your organization for men? What you think about that? We also need to stand together and challenge these stereotypes. Um, this the stereotype of a woman can't make a great leader because she's too emotional, or a woman doesn't have the time to really pour into her business and work it as a serious operation, is more of a hobby. I'm gonna put a pin right there real quick, and I just want to ask you guys: did you know, or are you aware of how the IRS classifies businesses versus hobbies? If you're not aware, then I always suggest that everybody go and do their research. But I'll tell you a little bit about it as a overview. What the IRS does, it it will allow you for the first 3 years of your operation to claim anything. You can claim all your business expenses and get that tax write off. However, by year 4 and 5, if you haven't began to turn a profit, the IRS will automatically shift your business into a hobby status. They don't give you a notification, they don't send you a letter, they don't let you know up front that we're going to do this. They just do this. And the way that you find out is when you begin to claim the same deductions and the same um, credits that you claimed in the prior 3 years, your tax return will be bounced back to you. So I want you to be aware of these nuances and these things. And why is that important to us as women leaders? If we aren't really focused in on our profit driven models within that short time frame, we're going to render ourselves into a hobby status in a corner where we're no longer able to reap the benefits of being a business owner. So I want you to be conscious of that. I want you to be aware of not just what's happening right now in front of you, but also what is going on in the business culture that was built a long time ago. What are those parameters? As a woman leader, as a woman entrepreneur, sometimes we get frustrated with how business receives us, but we also have to be aware that we operate within a business system, a cog that was built hundreds of years ago. And as we are making changes and shifts within this new paradigm, we still have to remain conscious of the legal requirements, the local, state, federal laws, guidelines, requirements, registrations are that tend to trap some women entrepreneurs and women business owners into very costly mistakes. So, we also need to work on how we offer legitimate mentorship and sponsorship programs for women. And I use the word legitimate for a reason. I spent a lot of times in the space of coaching and mentoring and speaking with other entrepreneurs. And one of the common themes that am continuing to hear, not only just from women, but from men, and especially for people of color that are in these impoverished states or underrepresented cultures, What happens is we get excited about building our business and we see things on social media or we see things on online that really speak to our hot buttons. It talks about how it can help us build these six, seven, eight-figure businesses instantly. It talks about how we can um, find instant wealth and success by utilizing these certain programs or following this mentoring program. Well, throughout the past 3 years, that process via social media has tremendously increased, which has caused a lot of business owners and people who have fallen subject to that process without a legitimate deliverable. It's made people gun shy. So as you are navigating and you are evaluating your market share and your customer and your clientele for your business, you I would advise for you to put on the forefront of your mind, what are these people thinking? Are you putting out information? If you have a legitimate deliverable, if you have a legitimate mentor program, are you still putting out marketing materials and information that closely resembles the very things that have taken their money that was not legitimate? And I say that just to put that on your mind to think about you might have to come with a different approach because again people are gun shy now. People have lost thousands and thousands of dollars following the wrong people, buying the wrong programs, buying into the wrong coaching programs, the wrong mentoring programs, which makes it even more necessary and demanding for us to build solid, vetted mentoring programs, such as the programs that we offer at the Exceptional Woman Network. If you have a solid mentoring program, I will ask you to connect with us because we are in the process of bringing in mentoring programs out from other businesses, other networks to help our members. So reach out, connect with us. You can send an email to sales at exceptionalwomannetwork.com and just let them know that you have a solid mentoring program. I will tell you that we vet it and we make sure that there are deliverables that come from this process. But this is another way that we can pull together and begin to overcome some of the pain points that are currently plaguing other women entrepreneurs because they don't know where to turn. When I talk about sponsoring programs or sponsorship programs, let me clarify what that means. Sometimes sponsorship does not exactly mean money. We are draining each other dry because all we are requiring from everyone is cash. And that's because we're coming into our own journey without the funding and the financial backing that we need to execute what we need to do. But again, I want to challenge you to look at different areas of your business that you need support. For example, what I just put out there, our demand for mentoring programs is extremely high. So I know that I myself can't build everything that everyone needs for every industry. Well, that is a sponsoring program where you now do and get into a revenue share partnership with us for your mentoring program. It services both sides. It helps my company be able to take care of a larger audience in more industries, but it also helps you build clientele and exposure for your program. So let's start looking at how we can offer sponsorship programs for women that does not necessarily require tens of thousands of dollars coming out of someone's bank account. That support system can look a completely different way, but we have to begin to trust each other and look at how the rest of the business world is able to navigate and grow their businesses outside of funding. As women leaders, we should actively seek peer networks and advocate for our leadership style. And when I say that, that means where when even if you're not working for yourself as an entrepreneur, if you're a business leader working in a business industry and you hear these conversations about the stereotypes of women leaderships or whatever, we have to be that advocate to point out that that isn't true. We are just as strong of leaders as our male counterparts. In some areas, in some aspects, we are actually stronger because of the way that our minds navigate and comes up with problem solving. So, advocate for our leadership style and also challenging each other. If you see that there is another sister out there, there's another woman out there that is buying in or emulating the very stereotype that we are trying to outgrow. Have a conversation. Don't stand over to the side and talk about her. Maybe she doesn't know, maybe she's not aware. But again, that goes back to those solid networks, those peer networks, those mentoring programs to help all of us elevate into recognizing our value within this modern style of leadership. So, as a CEO, when I'm looking at my company and coming up with concepts and direction that I want to take my company, the first thought that I have when I'm building programs is the sustainability. So I want to make sure that when my company launches programs or trainings or projects, that is something that not only internally we are capable of sustaining, but I have the right partnerships and people in place for the expansion and growth of that. What I find within a lot of my women counterparts is because our funding is minimal, we tend to focus in on what's in front of us, which makes us build programs, initiatives, launch processes, and things that we haven't predicted and projected out to be a long term project. Why? Because we need the money. And I'm not saying this because it's a judgment thing. I'm saying it because, again, Trailblazers is one of those podcasts that we're just going to talk about the real of it. There's a lot of times that you're doing things and you're putting processes out there, or you're launching a, let's take um, authors, for example. We saw so many people talk about building these anthologies and these book collaborations because what we were told was it was a revenue driver. And within some anthologies and some book collaborations, they do become very lucrative, but that has to be structured and set up long before the book is complete. You have to have contracts and royalties and that process in place so that the authors that you are targeting and seeking to be a part of your collaboration understands what their rev share is going to be, what the profitability of this project is going to be. If you're just building a book collaboration and relying on the authors to pay you to be a part of your book, but there's no long term plan of how to continue to try to grow this book, then basically you're just collecting money for that short term. It puts money in your bank, but what is the long term effect? And if you want to do another anthology or a book collaboration, what is going to bring the next set of authors into your process if they don't see that there is a long term payout for their intellectual property? We got to be respectful of that. So I want you to start looking at the current programs that you have and what your goals are and stretch it. some. I want you to really challenge your current processes and operations of revenue generation and see how sustainable this process is. One of the tests for you to have is if no one pays you for this process, how do you keep it going? You don't have, let's go back to the anthology. If you aren't able to get people to pay you the author price to write into your book, but you still want to put this book out there, what are the other solutions? What are your other avenues to get that revenue from that book? So I just use, and I'm not picking on authors. I've done book collaborations. I've done my own book collaborations and learned valuable lesson from just that process of the difficulty of what it takes, what it means in the long term. I still have for my authors behind the scenes, whether these authors see it daily or not, we are still driving our book towards the New York Times bestseller because that is a more sustainable project for marketing, for interviews, for revenue once we reach that level. So even though we did not make it within the first 6 months and we did not make it within the first year, doesn't mean that my team still hasn't focused in on the exposure of that book collaboration because I owe that to my authors. The next thing that I want to talk about when it comes to women leaderships in this new paradigm is our fear of working together. Ladies, there is not one multi-billion dollar business that has been built or launched that was not a part of a partnership or collaboration. It just doesn't happen. And the main reason is because there's so many moving pieces of just your business where you need support, you need help. But if you don't have that upfront cash, then you have to now find other people that have strengths within those areas that you do not have the strength in order for you to create this project, create this business, create this growth. Well, what tends to hold us back within this new global paradigm is fear. We are afraid that if we tell someone about what we're doing or we ask for help from someone, then that person is going to take our idea and run with it. So, how do you prevent that? You protect yourself. How many of us are using NDAs before we have these conversations? How many of us are using the non compete clauses before we develop or bring employees on or bring partners on or bring contractors on to into our business? How many of us are making sure that we are protecting and trademarking our intellectual property through trademarks, patents, um, copyrights, authors? Are you registering your books? These are things that if you have that concern, to avoid the delaying of your success because of this concern, you put these parameters in place so that you can protect your idea, your concept, your business, but you're able to move the project forward because you're bringing on other people that can fill the gaps of the need of the project. For more information on that, please feel free to reach out to us at the Exceptional Woman Network and allow us to help guide you through that process. Another area that I feel is important for us as women leaders within this new global paradigm is we have to become more well versed on the legal side of business and less on the emotional side of business. We need to know the systems, the processes, the legalities, the requirements, the registrations, the taxes, the numbers. We're going to go back to numbers before I close out. But all of that information that our male counterparts just naturally migrate to, they're not afraid to know those things. They're not afraid of trying to find out what next year's taxes is going to be in the projections and things. We want to launch our business. We're so excited to launch our business that we tend to not look at it from a 360 view. We look at where we are, what we have in front of us, and we put it out there with the concept that we'll worry about the rest of it later. Well, I'm here to tell you that's how we set ourselves up for failure. Before you put your business out there, before you launch anything, you need to sit down with an attorney. You need to sit down. If you have a nonprofit, you need to build your board with experienced board members so that they can help you from not going down a pathway that can cause failure for your businesses. So the legal structure, the business side, the really unfun, unpopular, unfeeling portion of business, we as women leaders in this new global world, we have to become better versed in that. To the numbers. Whew. Okay, ladies, listen. Here's the reality of building a sustainable and a profitable business. You have to learn how to navigate your numbers even when you're not making any money. The landscape of building that budget, building that plan is the very tool that you're going to need to ensure that you begin to build profits. Sometimes it's not fun to look at the negatives. Sometimes it's not fun to look at how much money you've put out there that you are not receiving back in. So we'll wait until we begin to start to see profits or we begin to build customers and clients and get some sort of money coming in before we start focusing in on our numbers. I'm here to tell you that when everything is zero or everything is in the red, is your best exercise to practice how to navigate your finances, how to navigate your expenses, how to look at what your controllable expenses and your non controllable expenses. Because as you build revenue, if you are not used to and ready to address these gaps, address these long terms of not receiving any additional money, build in parameters and places where there is fuel that is continuing to come into your business outside of the big ticket items, outside of the big revenue drives, must be prepared to address these gaps, these time frames, these spaces where your non-controllables still require for you to pay for things like your website, to pay for whatever applications that you subscribe to pay for your CRM. If you're not addressing those issues in the beginning before you start driving any revenue or building any type of revenue, then when you begin to build the revenue, we have a tendency that we get excited about the money coming in, but we don't apply it in the right areas. So my advice to you is when there's zero, when there's negative, practice that muscle memory of controlling your finances so that when you do begin to build your revenue, you don't overspend or you don't overextend the amount of money that you're going to be bringing in monthly, quarterly, annually. I'm not saying that every woman shies away from it. I am not doing that generalization. But as women entrepreneurs, more often than not, I find that there are broken processes within building this business plan that women don't think about. And most of the time, it's because we've never been exposed to it. I say often, if you've never had that seat at the table, which goes back to the old traditional structure of business, with us not having really prominent roles within and active roles within the leadership and the decision making process amongst some of the larger businesses, it's handicapped us when we are building our own business of what to look for. Our male counterparts don't have that problem because they have the seats at the table. So I want us to be very conscious about who we are connecting ourselves with and go back to what I said. When you're building your ecosystem, you're building your organization, do you have a male in that process that can help you navigate some of the things that you may not be aware of? And I know that there is some women out there right now, some really strong leaders out there that just cringed at what I just said. So I need to have a man to be able to tell me what to do. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you need to prepare yourself with all facets. You got to take your feelings out of this, ladies, and figure out what's most important to you. Is the success and the sustainability of your business more important than your pride? If that's the case, then the reality of the world is if you have not had that seat at the table, then guess what? You now have to learn from someone who has. And the percentage of numbers of women that have that seat at the table right now, when we're sitting post COVID, we are less than 3% of the C suites of the businesses out there in the world. So, within the less of the 3%, if you don't have access to that 3%, then yes, you are going to have to go outside of our gender to build the proper fundamentals, processes, and foundation for your business. That doesn't mean that makes you weak. That doesn't mean that now only men can build these business. What it means is you're smart enough to learn so that now you could take that information and pass it on to other. That is the only way that we're going to increase our numbers of leaders is we first have to learn. And once we learn, then we can't hoard that information. We now pass it on to the next generation and the next generation and the next woman that's out there trying to find her way and navigate through this new global paradigm. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. But I want us to get out of our own way. When you are looking for an attorney that can advise you for your business practices, yes, it might be natural for you to look for a woman that looks like you, that understands your journey. However, you also have to interview enough attorneys to be able to articulate and figure out for yourself, for your team, whether the choice of your attorney is the right person for you, because not every person is built equally. And so it may require some aspects of your business may require for you to go outside of your race, to go outside of your gender, because this is the right person for you. Let's move past the gender stereotypes. Because again, why is this important? Why am I really harping on this? We talk from our perspective of how painful it is and how frustrating it is that we don't have the spaces that we need within this global business paradigm. However, when we get our own business, then we do our own reverse biases and we don't open up our doors, we don't open up our platforms, we don't open up our hiring for other people who don't look like us. The mindset is, well, they don't do it for us, so we need to take care of ourselves. But that's a small way of thinking because the only way that we're going to teach the business world to receive us as equals, the only way that we're going to teach people who have sexuality, religion, or color-based biases that it has no place in business is we have to walk our talk. So if you begin to show your business as an equal opportunity operation, you are helping other entrepreneurs that look like you. You are helping other people that are your race, your sexuality, your religion, because it now has flooded. We begin to overtake the old traditional guard of business and we show it a new way to operate. And we can do that, ladies. We can do that. If you look at the Exceptional Woman Enterprise, we have males, we have females, we have people that are multicultural, multi race, multi age. Because I, as the founder CEO, understand that the only way that I'm going to be able to service my audience and my clientele and my customers is I have to receive a perspective from people who represent that audience. So, just something for you to think about. I want you to really focus in on the business side of your business, not the micro biases, not the pain points, not the past. What can we do right now to create a new future, break the boundaries, understand and recognize and get the business world to really appreciate women in leadership? How do we do that? We walk our talk. So, as I wrap this show and this episode, I want to make sure that you guys understand that you have to trust your unique leadership qualities. We no longer belong to the world of that traditional um, base that you have to operate as a man. You have to walk, dress, talk. You bring your own unique quality into your own business, but you also have to be smart enough to understand that you are in this business world. So, how do you embrace your empathy, your resilience, and the ability to see yourself within the bigger picture of the business world? Our leadership is essential in the future of this new business paradigm. I want to encourage you as a woman leader to seek out mentorship, peer programs, continue to learn and adapt. Your leadership is not only shaping this new paradigm, but it's also building a more inclusive and sustainable future for our next six generation. It starts with us. As always, I want to encourage you to grow, to push the boundaries, to learn more. Stay tuned for our next episodes. We are going to really dive into these controversial conversations. And I do that on purpose. I don't do that because I'm trying to rub people the wrong way. I'm not trying to do that because I'm trying to say my way is the only way. I want to challenge the status quo. I want to stretch all of us. I am open to hearing your feedback. I want to know what you think. I want to know what you want to hear and what you want to know so that we can become, again, a more inclusive and sustainable society. This is your friend, your girl, Dr. Michelle S. Thomas. I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to another amazing episode of the Trailblazers Business Podcast for Women. Until next time, remember, be inspirational, be legendary, but most of all, be exceptionally you.